I'm just getting off work and I wanted to come online and tell my student loan sob story. And for once, it is not about federal student loans. They are doing just fine. This story is about a private student loan. I was a good kid. I had above average grades. I did all the extracurricular activities. I was accepted into many schools, but I chose to go to a state school instead. The program I was in, I was pre-dental. My grandfather was a dentist. I was going to become a dentist to take over his dental practice. And I took out a private student loan through the state of Missouri. And at the time, it was a good deal. Basically, they give you $5,000 a semester, and you go through all your schooling. At the end, you have to work in an underrepresented area. I was pre-dental at the time, so I was already planning to do all of that. But plans are one thing, reality is something else. They didn't really tell me about what happens if I didn't. So speed up the clock here. I basically had a breakdown in my sophomore to junior to senior year. I was failing classes. I couldn't figure out why. I fell into drinking and partying to try to make myself feel better, and it just was not doing it. I was doing some dangerous stuff. I was self-harming. There was a lot that was going on, and I was still very high functioning about it. My family doesn't even know all that I was struggling with. The funny part is, the thing they don't tell you about mental breakdowns is that you don't know when you're going through one. It's not like a cold. There aren't any obvious symptoms. All there is a sense of, why aren't things going the way that they're supposed to? I was barely functioning as a student, but I did what I was supposed to. I found a doctor, I got help, I got medication, and together we decided that switching majors would be better. My grandfather had just gotten sick. He had cancer, and he was going down the drain pretty fast. It shook up my whole family foundation. Just nothing was going the way that it should have been going. So I was down to three options. Option one was to continue trying to pass the class that I was failing. It would stall my graduation. It would cost more. There would be more and more student loans that I would have to take out. Or I could take a break. I could go back home and maybe take a semester just to kind of get my head back in gear, and then maybe go to a different school. That was also an option. But I chose the last option. The last option was to change my major. And it was hard. That was a really, really hard decision, and it was hard to tell my family that I was going to go a different route. I told the loan people that I didn't need to take out any more loans from them. I was changing majors, and I didn't need it anymore. I was going to figure it out on my own. And then they told me that, okay, you're going straight into repayment. And I said, repayment? What are you talking about? I'm still in school. I don't have a job. What do you mean repayment? Like, I've never been told that student loans, that you would have to pay student loans when you're in school and you don't have a job, right? Well, they told me that's for federal student loans. That's not for private student loans. And I said, I thought those rules applied to all student loans, and they educated me real fast. No, them laws do not apply to all student loans. And that's where we get into the problem here. So they told me I would have to go into repayment. The amount that I took out was $15,000, right? The interest rate was 9.5%. They told me that I would have to pay $450 a month as an unemployed college student just because I changed my major. And honestly, it scared the shit out of me. What do you do? I was like, 19, 20 at the time? I had no clue. Nothing like this had ever happened to me, and it scared the shit out of me, quite frankly. And so I didn't answer him. And I do have some responsibility in this, but honestly, it's just a bad loan. So to tell you how bad my financial situation was in college, I was giving plasma to get some extra money. I was going to food pantries. I was on food stamps. I did odd jobs around the town, like the voting signature people. I was one of those, asking people to sign up for stuff. I tried to do everything right. I got a job working at Kohl's. I got a job working at Domino's. But how are you supposed to afford $450 a month and still pay rent? It just blows my mind. It just completely blows my mind that I was sitting out here giving plasma for some extra money, and they wanted $400 a month from me. Took advice from other people. I tried to follow the rules. I tried to follow the guidelines. I tried. But following the rules apparently gets you nowhere anymore. Following the rules means nothing. It just means that you're too loud. Following the rules means that you're a headache for somebody else who wants to break the rules. And the people that break the rules are the ones that are in charge. Fast forward a bit. But I worked through that. I graduated, not on time, just one semester late, but I graduated. I've had summons come to my house. I contacted an attorney to represent me, hoping that we could send some letters and negotiate a settlement like they say that people do. Once again, I did what people told me. I did what the experts said. And nothing happened. The lawyer I had, he's kept the case going for all this time. I haven't actually had to go to court. It's just been an exchange of letters back and forth. But the attorney that I'm working with is retiring for health reasons, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. I thought all I need to do was to reach out and find somebody to take over my case. We tried to do a settlement amount earlier. So the settlement that they offered to me was an economic hardship deferment. I told them, I asked you guys for this way at the beginning. Back when you first put me into repayment, I asked if there were any deferments or forbearances available for me because I was in poverty and could not afford payments. And they told me, no, there's nothing, pay $450. So the fact that as the settlement, they gave me an economic hardship deferment that they have now instead of back then, I rejected it. So instead, the settlement they gave me was the loan as it stands. The $15,000 loan has now turned into $31,000 with 9.5% interest still accruing. So my lawyer is retiring for health reasons. I need to find another lawyer. I'm reaching out to the internet today for some goddamn help. I thought, everybody's having problems with student loans. There's got to be a large amount of attorneys out there that are dealing with student loans. No. There's not. One attorney I reached out to was located in Kansas City, and they said, looking at the amount of the student loan, that it's not worth it for them to come represent me in St. Louis. If the loan amount was higher, they would come and help me. But because it's $31,000, it's not enough for them. And I'm like, $31,000 is basically a year of work for me. Like, this may not be a lot to some people, but it's a lot to me. I'm a good person. I work for the federal government, so I'm working on public service loan forgiveness with my actual federal loans. It's just these loans. And I'll tell you, the whole program was super sketchy. I don't even know if anybody ever finished that program, but it doesn't exist today. The program that I was in does not exist anymore, and I do not know if people completed it. It seems predatory. I feel like I've been trapped, and now I need representation. Who cares? I need help. But what can you do? What can you do when there's nobody willing to help you? These are private loans. Nobody cares about private loans. It's just the federal loans that even have a sliver of hope. So I'm asking for anybody that knows attorneys working in Missouri, if they can help me represent my case. I can't find representation. That means that I will have to accept the settlement amount. Accepting a debt that's the same amount as a car payment. It's like I'm buying a whole car that doesn't exist. So if that happens, my only option is bankruptcy. I don't have that amount of money, and paying $400 a month is not going to make a dent in that. So I'm going to have to apply for bankruptcy with my medical bills, everything. It's just wrecked. It's all just wrecked. I know my story isn't unique. I know that I am part of the millions of Americans that are also suffering from issues with student loans. I know that this shit is hard for everybody. By the time the federal student loan forgiveness, whatever they're trying to do, by the time that gets settled and it trickles down to the private loans, it's too long. It's too long. Right now, I'm single. I have no kids. It's just me. I'm working a decent job for the federal government, and I just want to live a quiet life, but I'm trapped with this debt. I'm completely trapped, and now I will be forced to do bankruptcy, which is going to wreck my whole future for the next at least 7 years. But what can you do? Cry on the internet and get a second job. That's all the hope we have in America. Or do Feet Finder. Maybe Feet Finder.